Okay, here we go. Okay, welcome to AIM's second marketing webinar. This is Facebook Tips and Strategies to Adapt and Connect Now. And we have Stephanie Kaler with us today, who has 25 years of experience and more with marketing and promoting all different kinds of industries, from musicians to movies and even organic salad and museums. And we're lucky to have her here in partnership with the Small Business Development Center to talk about Facebook strategies. So she's going to dig in. I will pass it over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Liana. And welcome to the class. Right now we have our shared screen. I'm gonna pop over here. I wanna just take a few minutes to sort of learn a little bit about the people that are in the class. And right now that's you, Elliot. So before we get started, if you would be willing to just let me know a little bit about your business and where you are in your sort of, especially specifically Facebook marketing.
Sure. Hi, Elliot Johnson. Our business is Goldie's Gourmet Spices. We sell custom blended spices at the Hayward Ames Farmers Market. And right now we do have a Instagram page and a Facebook page. We're not 100% sure if we have our Facebook page set up correctly. It does look like a business page, but we seem to have issues with content coming over from Instagram, and also seeing a lot of the comments, like people that tell us that, oh, I commented on your Facebook page, and we'll never see it. Like, we don't know what happens, where it went to, or anything like that. So today, we're the Instagram class was so helpful, till I'm hoping, to learn something on the Facebook page as well. And maybe we need to go in and make some adjustments to our page.
Right. And sometimes, so one of my questions is, do you have it set to automatically populate? So if you put something on Instagram, it automatically populates on Facebook?
When we do the Instagram, yeah, there's a little slide button that says
share on Facebook.
Share, yeah. And so we make sure that's done, but sometimes things just don't seem to come over.
Right. There's sometimes are glitches in that front. So sometimes, just as a little side note before we even get started, double check on the Facebook side also. In your settings somewhere there's a thing that says share directly on Instagram. Make sure it's set on both sides. Sometimes that solves your problem. Just an FYI.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll talk about notifications too. So where you can be looking for those people's, because if you have notifications turned off, there's some reasons why you might not see things. So I'm glad to know that sounds good. And I'll be sure to ask specific questions. We have such a small group that please ask away. There's plenty of space to very much tailor everything I'm saying to your specific needs. So don't hesitate to ask. And
okay.
So Katie, I am seeing you come on. I think I recognize your name from the last time. Please accept my apologies for my computer crashing smack in the middle of our class. I'd love to have you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your business and where you are in the process of your Facebook page. So you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. So I do microgreens. I'm based out of Lake County. I do Grand Lake farmers markets. I have a Facebook page. I just created Instagram and other social media accounts for my business. And I haven't posted very much on my Facebook page, business page, but I'm starting to, just to get in the habit of creating just content, taking pictures of, the farm and little things like that. I'm also going to be working with a company called Barnador that creates like a website and a web store specifically for farmers, and they plug all that stuff into social media. So I'm kind of like, okay, they provide the service that I could have, so I need to start really using it. And they also create like people can place orders right away, like from seeing my posts to for whatever to pick up or subscribe to specific things for pickup. So I want to learn how to use these things because
that's really great. And I think you'll find that
time
service really helpful. And I'll show you sort of where that will probably appear on the page. That's good to know too. And so your posts will supplement their posts, which is great.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. I mean, some things that are just kind of informational. And then some things will actually kind of, I guess, prompt anybody who sees it to actually purchase things or come to the market. So we'll see how that goes.
Great. All right. Well, I was telling Elliot, we have a super small class. I think a lot of people are going to be viewing this on the recording. So I'll be speaking more formally in certain ways. So that'll sound a little funny, but I do want you to please ask specific questions related to you. We have lots of space because there's only a few of you. So please do not hesitate to ask questions. That'll be how I know I'm still on like I wasn't like I was telling Elliot, I kept teaching for 25 minutes. It looked normal on my side. It was just not, it was so funny last time. So I'm going to keep moving. There's a few slides I'm not sure how far I got. So I'm just going to go through the whole thing again. So there'll be a few things that'll be a bit redundant for the two of you, but basically this is what our class is going to look like. We went through introductions already. Elephant in the room, that's sort of talking about crisis specific and that, we have the COVID crisis, but now we also have the fires. So there's this, we'll talk about that a little bit, then just an overview and then some action steps, some tips. And then I am going to get a little bit into Facebook ads because I do think that's something that is a cost-effective and useful tool for you to be using as well. So that's sort of what our morning's going to look like. And so again, the big question I get frequently is, should I actively market during a crisis? And that crisis can be any number of things. And that's why I'm adding in, as I look out my window and I cannot even see the trees next door because of the smoke, there's lots of things that can come into play there. So the answer is absolutely yes, but it's an important thing for you to pivot your message. So I think this sort of goes without saying, and anyone who's sort of so sensitive to human interaction would recognize that you have to be sensitive to things. So for instance, if people are maybe not wanting to go out, this is a great idea, Katie, if you had your online sales service up and running, your messaging could pivot to say something along the lines of, if you don't want to get out too much, you can place your order here and this limits your time out. So when I talk about pivoting message, it's just to basically acknowledge what's actually going on and try to have your services accommodate the needs of the people in that crisis, whatever their needs might be. And then this was sort of more when the businesses were closed completely, although farmers markets were not particularly closed because they were deemed essential. But the answer is, even if you find yourself in a situation, so let's say this is even in off season, so microgreens grow, well, actually you may do it. Katie, do you grow all year round in greenhouses, or how does that work?
Sorry. I grow year round. They're under lights in a indoor kind of grow facility building under, that's
perfect,
temperature controlled.
So actually this wouldn't necessarily apply to either of you because you are year round, but if, let's say you were a tomato grower and you were in the off season, you still want to talk about your products so that you stay in people's minds. So even in the off season, or if you were to be closed for some reason, staying in front of people's minds is an important way to keep them when the season comes back around. So consistency, we're going to talk a lot about consistency. Consistency isn't just how many times a week or consistently per week. It also means seasonally and annually. So just keep that in mind. And I want to just pivot away for one quick second. Priscilla, I saw that you came on. Welcome. If you could just quickly introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your business and where you are on your Facebook sort of, like, do you have a Facebook page? Where are you? Just, we have a small enough class. I want to make sure that we're addressing each of you individually because we'll have the ability to interact. So we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, my name is Priscilla Luster. I'm with Luster Organic Farm. And so we do have a Facebook page that we've had up for many years, but we've just actively been using it probably in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still getting used to analytics and things like that, and Facebook's forever changing. So I just wanted to get more information on making sure we're doing it the correct way.
Gotcha. And what products do you have? I'm sorry, you just, your audio slipped out a little bit.
We're an organic farm, and so we primarily row crops. So our main crops are strawberries and tomatoes and peppers and summer squash and eggplant. And then so we do farmers markets, and then we sell at our farm stand.
Got it. And so back to you kind of came in where we were talking about in the off season, sharing recipes and that sort of thing is another great idea. So just ideas in the off season when you're not, you're in full season right now.
Yes.
So welcome. And please, all of you, I'm going to reiterate, please feel free to chime in at any time. This is not me talking at you. This is a conversation with you. So if there's anything that you have that pops in your mind, please don't feel like you have to wait to ask questions until the end. I want us to, let's have it be a conversation. So feel free. It's really fine. So some of the language that I'll use a little bit, I just sort of wanted to let you guys know what that looks like. So we'll talk a little bit about strategies. You'll have an organic strategy and a paid strategy. All I mean by the organic strategy is your regular posts. That's things that you put up and that you're putting out to the people who follow you or like you, and it's an unpaid push. So that's what your normal posts are, just considered your organic strategy. Your paid strategy is anything from boosts to ads. And your organic strategy should inform your paid strategy. So you want to just make sure that your ads have the same pattern language and branding and feel as your organic strategy. And that's pretty self-explanatory, but just keep that in mind. And then people oftentimes ask, how do I choose a network? Meaning, should I be on Instagram? Should I be on Facebook? And really that has to do with knowing the behaviors of your target audience. Now, this is a Facebook platform class, but I always say Facebook is sort of the least common denominator, meaning most people are on Facebook. So from a business perspective, I find if you only have time for one, I encourage you to start with Facebook. Although now that Facebook owns Instagram, it's such an easy place to have both. So my recommendation, especially for this group in particular, is to make sure that you're on both platforms, and meaning that the target audience is pretty broad because you have 20-somethings, families, a pretty broad group that's going to be interested in your products and farmers markets, especially in this part of the world. So Instagram skews a little bit younger and Facebook skews a little bit older. But for this group, I do recommend that you find yourself on both platforms, partly because farmers market and food and even your spice things, all of that's beautiful. And so it lends itself to beautiful photography, which means Instagram is a key medium. Sometimes it's challenging if you don't have something beautiful to photograph, but that is clearly not a problem for you all. So I just want to sort of narrow, I realize this is sort of small, but you will all be getting this PowerPoint after the class. They'll send it along to you. So I just want to make sure that you recognize that you don't have to memorize or scribble down everything that's on here. I want to make sure you'll have access to all of this after the fact. So what these are basically just letting you know, this goes back to choosing platforms. This is a graph that talks about who is where. So this is YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and so on. And then men, women, race breakdown, age breakdown. So specific to Facebook. And these numbers probably are a little higher, especially since the pandemic. And we'll talk about that in a second. But 69% of all adults are on Facebook. And then this breaks it down: 75% of all women and 63% of all men. And then this sort of goes down. This even talks about the urban, suburban, and rural. And I feel like these are just really important things to note. I can just basically, what this tells me is your audience is very likely on Facebook and engaging on a regular basis. So it's sort of like you've already got them at the shop, if you will. And then this is to talk about the frequency in which they are on Facebook specifically. 3/4 of Facebook users visit on a daily basis. And quite frankly, it's even more frequent now. And I put you'll see pink things throughout this class. If you see it in pink, it usually means if you take away one thing, just remember that. And then, so the statistics are showing that there's record usage during the COVID shutdown, and because people are just in front of their computers more. So again, this goes into 51% of all the people on Facebook visit the platform more than once a day, and 23% about once a day, and then 26% less than that. So the point is, I always refer this to a little bit like a mall, even though I'm not such a fan of malls, but you've already got them in the platform when they're on their Facebook page. So this is where paid ads become very beneficial and why they're so cost effective. They don't cost very much, and just you have lots of opportunities for them to be in front of people's eyeballs. So that's sort of the reasoning for this. And I do put this link down here. This is where I get my information. Pew Research is a wonderful resource for if you're a data geek like I am. They have lots of detailed information. I'm not saying you have to go there. I just wanted you to know, if you would like to get a little deeper in some of these datas, that is where it came from. So does anybody have questions or thoughts or something specific just in this information as far as demographics and frequency of use?
No, I'm fine.
Good. Thank you, Elliot, for letting me know you're there. I'm never going to live down the last time. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about strategy. So strategy, I use this analogy for so often, but it's a good one. And I put this little map in here just because if you're driving from New York to California, it's just super useful to have a road map in place. Like, you know which route you're going. And that sort of informs your decisions as you're going through your drive. And it allows you to even go off track a little bit and not lose track. So let's say you get somewhere in the middle of the country and you want to stop and see some train town, but it's a little off your beaten path. You can go off, do that, and then get right back to your initial map because you've got it set in place already. The same is true for a social media strategy. You need to make sure that your social media efforts are complementing your overall marketing goals for your company. And so I'm sure you mostly have those set in place, and they're obviously going to be fairly specific in the category that we're talking about. Spices might have a little bit of a broader marketing goal, but just advertising and social media is just a small part of your overall strategy, but you want to make sure you do have a strategy. And when talking about strategy, why have one and what should it be telling me? Well, the sort of 4 things that you're looking for in your strategy is you want to either increase customer satisfaction. So what can you post? What can you communicate that makes your current customers both stay with you and then maybe even grow their interaction with you? So if they only come for you because you have the best tomatoes, how do we get them to come to you for the tomatoes and strawberries? And if they only come to you, so how do you broaden your relationship with your current customer? Then the second part is, how do you generate leads, meaning how do you bring in people that are not current customers? How do you find those people? That's another key thing. And then the third thing is obviously increasing traffic to your site or your physical space, in your case, meaning the booth at the farmer's market. And when I say site, I mean website and your social media sites as well. So when I say traffic, that traffic kind of comes in multiple ways. And then obviously your ultimate goal is to increase revenue. I mean, I think that's sort of where we all sit. We're indeed a business. So then the question being, why do you need an overall strategy? This goes back to my little pink notes. Consistency is perhaps the most important thing that you can have going for you. So you want to make sure you're creating consistent and engaging content. So there's two parts to the word consistent. One is brand consistent, meaning you want it to look this fairly similar, like the same reason that your logo might have a certain set of branding. I always use Point Reyes Farmstead is a great example. You recognize, their Point Reyes blue cheese logo, and all of their cheese logos are so consistent. If you look at their marketing, it's quite consistent. So that's one thing, making sure your brand consistent, but more importantly, consistency in posting. So Katie, you were talking about the fact that you are trying to be, you're more consistent now. People frequently ask about this time, how often should I post? And my answer is, I'm not going to give you an answer to that. The most important thing you can do is be consistent. So you need to look at your personal schedule and know what is reasonable for you. So if you know that you're in the field a tremendous amount and you're just not in front of a computer very frequently, or your phone or whatever platform you're using to post, then don't overcommit. Say, I'm going to post once a week, but I'm going to never miss a week. Or if you have more time, I'm going to post 3 times a week and I'm never going to miss those 3. So whatever you can commit to and stick to, allowing for consistency week to week to week to week to week is the best thing you can do. Because the worst case scenario is to say, I'm going to post every single day. Then 3 days go by because you've been super busy. It wasn't a realistic goal to start with. Then all of a sudden you haven't posted at all. 3 weeks have gone by because you're kind of bummed because you missed it and you got off track. And then nobody's seen anything from you for 3 weeks. That's literally the worst case scenario. So, and then creating engaging content, that just means something that's interesting to people. And again, you guys have such a key market and beautiful things to photograph. I think engaging content's not going to be challenging for you. And then ultimately you have a strategy so that you can increase efficiency. So if you know that you're going to post every Tuesday or every Thursday, and maybe you set that schedule up to be when your markets are. So if you're at a Thursday market, you want to start maybe posting Tuesday or Wednesday to get people ready to come think, oh, I'm going to go to the market on Thursday and get XYZ so I can plan for my weekend. So efficiency, that's efficiency both in the brand, but also for your own time. And then ultimately, again, to increase ROI, which is return on your investment. And when I say return on your investment, I don't just mean money, I mean your time. If you're going to invest time into your social media platforms, you need to be getting something from it. So does anybody have questions related to strategy or specific to yours? If you don't have a strategy, how to get started. Any questions on that or thoughts, comments? Don't hesitate to be specific to your needs.
Nothing from me.
Katie and Priscilla, you guys all right?
Actually, I have a question. Like, if I'm posting the same kind of thing, like, oh, come check us out at the farmer's market every week, does it get kind of repetitive and boring? If you're always kind of like, how would it make that engaging and not kind of like copying and pasting the same thing? Like, provide some a little bit of information or vary the text or a little bit so that it's not, oh yeah, it's just another post from this farmer prompting us to come to the market. Like, how would you recommend doing that?
Great question. And I have a bunch of ideas. So for instance, it's tomato season. So let's talk tomatoes. So sometimes you could post and the words you use could be fairly consistent. In fact, sometimes it's useful to use a consistent sentence and then add a second sentence that's different each week. So let's say one week you literally just put pictures of tomatoes and they're beautiful. Then maybe the next post is a recipe on how to use tomatoes. So a recipe for, I don't know, a panzanella salad, or I don't know, whatever. There's infinite recipes. And then, so that sort of gets people thinking, oh, not only do I want the tomatoes, I have an idea of how I can use them. So to me, that would be a big one. Third is take little snippet videos at the farmer's market, so that it's not just a picture of tomatoes, but sometimes you're panning your setup, and you could use that for the following week. So you can just change it up in what the visual looks like. And there's a million recipes are a big one, because you could do how to, and then even as the season goes by, and it's like, are you canning? Are you making sauce that you put in the freezer? There's lots and lots of different ways. So helping people understand why they need to visit you so frequently and buy more. So maybe you think, oh, well, I only buy 3 tomatoes because that's how many I'm going to use in this week. But then if all of a sudden you're talking about making spaghetti sauce, all of a sudden I need a pound. Does that make sense? Katie, I'm unmuting you. Or I think you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah. I think I get it. Yeah.
So sometimes it's just, and it takes a little getting used to. So the first couple weeks, it'll feel weird, but then all of a sudden you'll think, oh, I could use this. And then sometimes if it's a customer that and they're coming and you're like, do you mind if I take a picture? So sometimes like a happy customer with their tomatoes, I'm picking on tomatoes right now, but that's another thing. You can shake it up, and you can put little, this person's buying tomatoes because they're going to make, I don't know, whatever it is. So there's ways just to change up the image that makes all the difference.
But still keeping some of the same information, like, oh, come check us out at the market, and then adding some other kind of like recipe, or like, I don't know, something.
Yes, absolutely. And
you mean like have more interesting content, like a recipe or something with a post, like, oh, and we will be at these farmers markets this weekend or something, like,
right. You could say, so I'll be at these
information to that.
I'll be at these farmers market with the most beautiful tomatoes. Here's some great ideas on how you can use them. And then you post a recipe or whatever it is that you think. So that's as you start to sort of draw content, you can also do Facebook Live, which I'll talk to you about further down the little post, but and then you can do stories. So the answer is yes, keep your consistency, meaning so that they know what markets you are attending on what days. So that's important. And then so that would be there almost in every post pretty much. And sometimes you want to lead with the, hey, here's a great recipe for tomatoes, and then put the repetitive information, so you can mix it up, like that, which sentence comes first. Does anyone else have questions on content? And we can talk more about content. We have lots of, further down, we'll have lots of ideas for content. But specific to farmers markets, recipes are key, because I know I walk around and I see things that I'll be like bok choy, and I'm like, what should I use bok choy in? And so if I knew leading in of a great recipe to use bok choy, then I would be going to look for it, and then because it would be part of my plan for how to use it. So I always think that recipes are key, especially in the world of vegetables and fruits, because there's an infinite way to use them. So also related to your strategy, this is a super broad slide for all kinds of businesses. And so yours is pretty well defined because you have a fairly specific product. It's not a broad situation, but the important thing is in your posts, you want to know what your brand personality is. So for instance, I use Clover Dairy as an example. They have sort of what I would call a quirky and fun. They have Chloe, the cow, the cartoon cow. That's sort of fun and quirky. And so while they have lots of different other places where they don't use her, that is such, we all know who that is, that little cow. So, that their personality is sort of, if I would put them in the fun category, and that's probably because they're trying to speak to also kids, which is smart. Kids drink milk. So knowing your own brand personality, like how would I know to come and get your tomatoes versus somebody else's tomatoes, or your spices versus somebody else's spices? So knowing that has to do with your branding and your look and feel and so forth. But you should be able to know, and your post should be in line with that. So if you, my company is what I would call not particularly quirky. So it would be odd for me to all of a sudden start putting goofy things out there because it doesn't fit with my brand personality. So that's just be mindful of, some people just have a great sense of humor and they know how to use it. And so you could make jokes about tomatoes and all of that. But know that that's who you are and that's consistent. And then I always say, make a little list of what adjectives would your audience use to describe you. So, organic, if you're an organic farm, that's an adjective, whatever those might be. And that you want to make sure you're using those in your posts as well, both your graphics and the language you use, because you want to keep pushing that narrative. And then, like I said, when you're crafting your message or replying to posts on social media, you want to make sure that you're consistent. So does anybody have any questions specifically on this? All righty. So then we want
I do.
Good.
I did. How much of it do you think it's beneficial to not just have the product, but something from the farmer, like, I don't know, whether it's pictures or videos so they connect to the person,
Absolutely,
or your staff
100%.
or whatever, that kind of idea?
Yes, 100%, absolutely. And the farm itself, so the fields and the whole sort of cycle of life, if you will. So that's where, through the whole process, taking photos of the little plants, the grown-up plants, the harvesting, the people who do the harvesting, the farmers specifically out in the field, you specifically. So absolutely. Building a relationship is really what you're doing. And obviously the more they know, the more, like if I know who's picking those tomatoes, it makes it even feel more, I know they're organic and so forth, but it just feels personal.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of what happens at the farmer's market. You kind of build relationships with people, they know about you personally. And it's like, how much does that translate to your posts?
100%. And it's super important. Just think of it as relationship building. It's just an extension of that relationship that you have with the people when they come to the market. And it's sort of.
I've also wasn't sure, like people kind of know me in a kind of playful, silly way at the market. People know that I go to like dance a lot, and sometimes I'm like, is it unprofessional to be dressed up in costumes on my farm and show pictures of me, or talk about, like, I don't know to what degree, but this is like my personality, and people kind of connect with me. They like come and shop, and we talk about products, and then they're like, what dances are you gonna go to, or like, how's your cat, like personal things that they know I'm into. And I was like, how much of my life that is part of, how I am and what I do at the farm, professional enough to post about? And
No,
I guess it's a matter
I think
of
it's important. Yeah, consistency, and it absolutely, what you're describing is your brand personality. And especially since you're the lead person, your personality is a large portion of your brand personality. And don't feel like you have to hesitate away from that. That's why I put some of these words in there. If you have sort of a quirky, fun way of interacting with people, that's golden. And it should be communicated, because they'll look for you because you're fun.
Yeah,
So don't
I mean,
try,
I would post on my personal page one day my cat actually hitchhiked jumped in my van and came to the farmer's market with me. And on my personal page, people think that's hilarious. I don't know if that's hilarious on
I'm telling you, if you post,
you know what I mean?
we'll make a little bet and you can email me afterward. I bet you if you posted that, you would get more interaction on that post than anything you could possibly put up. People love that kind of stuff. That's hysterical. You absolutely should
Okay.
put that out there. So that's the whole thing is especially in your particular category, certain, like if you were an accountant, you want to be a little less, I'm not sure anybody really wants a quirky, fun accountant. They want somebody that's like kind of buttoned up, but that is not something you have to worry about. You guys are in a very different category. Personality means a lot. And that's how they'll differentiate between your tomatoes and someone else's tomatoes. Because, at the end of the day, there's two sets of organic tomatoes. Why are yours different? Why would I come to yours? These are the way you start differentiating yourself. In a good way.
I do have customers. So I'd say that they come to me as opposed to some other microgreens because we have interesting personal conversations about life. So I guess
sorry, your microgreens.
That translates more.
I was on a tomato kick, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I guess that carrying that personality or whatever it is that you enjoy, kind of talking about that relates to your product out. That makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. So the next thing is you want to always, and this is sort of back to your strategy, and I'm going to move through this pretty quickly because I think this is pretty self-explanatory. You just want to make sure you know who your audience is. Obviously, again, you guys are in a fairly narrow category just because it's, it's not a national campaign for something, but you just know when you're doing your posts who your demographics are. So if your primary demographic is 30 to 40, you're probably not going to be doing something that's sort of geared towards a 20-year-old. So just keep in mind the demographics of your audience, and that should include age, gender, income to some degree. That more has to do with pricing and so forth. So if you know that your customer has a lower income, sort of doing a post that says cost-effective ways to use such and such, that's knowing your audience. And then location, neighborhood, cities, states, countries, obviously. I think this should be more like urban and rural. And then know what their other activities are. So obviously people that are shopping at a farmer's market might have interest in farming or various things. So your posts should just be aware of who you're talking. It's just sort of like know your audience. And then this comes into play also when you're doing Facebook ads, obviously. So these sort of are just your basics as far as where can I post on Facebook. So I think everybody probably knows the difference between a Facebook feed and a Facebook story. So I'm going to go over here. So this is a business page that I want you to, because I want you to be able to sort of see a business page. So I don't know, does everybody's Facebook look like this now, or does it look like the old version?
I don't. Mine kind of looks like that, kind of.
Because right now Facebook has gone through a whole design change, and mine happened since our last class. So they've just been automatically switching it over. But as of September 1st, I think everybody will be off of what they're calling classic. So if you see here, it says switch to classic Facebook, but as of September, it's no longer going to be available for anyone. So if this page looks a little weird to you, A, I'm sorry, but B, in the next week or so, yours will look like this too. So,
and that's the computer page,
yeah, this
not
is
like the tablet or a phone.
correct. This is the this is the desktop version.
Desktop. Okay.
Yeah. Although it should look fairly similar. Phones are going to be different. I think a tablet looks similar. So, so here, I totally lost track of what I was going to talk about. Oh, feed. So down here, this right here is your feed. This is when I refer to feed, and I'm sure this is self-explanatory to most of you. That's what this whole thing is. This is everything you post is your feed. But then you have stories too, and stories are here. Oh, that's sorry. See, you know, isn't this so funny? They keep messing with us. All right, I'm going to take you to my homepage so you can see what a story. They're all so different now. So up here are stories. So when you, I have to figure out where it is on the new one. Literally, they just switched this. So stories are up here where you have. Ooh, sorry, that was very loud. So the stories last for 20 or 10 seconds and you go through your whole feed. Sorry, that's just, it's not working super well. And so stories are very much like the ones that they have on Instagram. They run across the top. Each post lasts for 10 seconds and then it stays on your story for 24 hours and then it drops off. So you can have a little bit more fun with stories because they sort of last only 24 hours. So this is a place where for sure, if you have a funny, quirky dance move that you want to put up, this is a place to have much more fun. So the way that I always break these two things down are, and I'm not sure if any of you are on my Instagram class, it's very similar. It's like a photo album. Back in the day, we used to have, you know, cameras that had a roll of film, had 12 pictures. You take 12 pictures, 2 of them are good enough to make your photo album, 5 of them are good enough to make the shoebox, and the rest go in the trash. So in your feed is where you put those 2 that are really good. That's where, you know, whatever it is that you want to last in your feed for a long time, because they will be around forever or until you delete them. So what you put in your feed here, you want that to be your best 2 photos, if you will. And I don't mean just photos, but posts. Your stories can be the 5 that would make the shoebox. They're good. They tell a story. They might not be that good in the big picture, but they're worthwhile. So your feed is where you share communications and highlights that they'll want to be able to see over time. That's something that I can go back and look at your feed and see what you posted last season. So that's where your feed is. Now here I say in pink, you do not need to put hashtags in your feed. However, as of last week in the new Facebook land, they are getting to the place where they're, I think, moving toward, and here's what Facebook has. Artificial intelligence. It can read. So let's say this was a post. It can read all the words that are in here. So if this said, we sell organic microgreens at such and such farmers markets, your search engine optimization would benefit from the words you use in your caption, because Facebook has the ability to read the words and it shares it with Google. So that's your search engine, Google, Bing, Yahoo, all of those search engines. So previously, we've never needed to use hashtags, but I read an article last week where they're now saying maybe it's not a bad idea to use hashtags. What I think they're trying to do is merge the concept with Instagram and Facebook. So this is the reason that they're saying to use hashtags is now to benefit your Instagram and Facebook. So while I say you do not need to use hashtags, I am making a bit of a shift, if you've ever been in a class of mine before, to say it's not a bad idea. I don't know what all the changes are going to be, but I do know there are changes affront. So don't hesitate to use hashtags. And we can get into hashtags if there's questions about that. So I'll talk about that in a sec. And then on Facebook stories are much more to, like we were talking about with your cat story, to humanize your brand, be a little bit more entertaining. You don't have to be as formal, not that you have to be super formal in the other. And it's also a great place to have timely messages. So while you're at the actual market, that's a great opportunity for you to put 3 things or 4 things up on your story. Like, hi, look, we still only have 12 boxes of microgreens left, or, be very specific. Or you could say, feel like making curry tonight? We have these great spices, so you could be something, talk about something more in the here and now. So does anybody have questions? And we can talk about hashtags if you have questions about that too. Does anybody have questions about the differences and when to use and how to use a feed versus a story?
It sounds like you're kind of following the same concept as with the Instagram.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
And it used to be very, very different, but since Facebook bought Instagram, it's very similar. Very similar. And then on the stories, you can just like on Instagram, you can tag a location, you can put stickers, you can use GIFs, don't hesitate to have a little bit of fun with your stories.
Can you do both? Can you have the same thing go to a story and or is it too much?
No, absolutely you can. I just think the thing
just to reach more people.
Yeah, I just think you don't want to over spam your feed, because you wouldn't want to do too many posts in one day. I have mixed feelings about how many posts a day. If you're at the market, I would do maybe 2 posts in your feed, but you could do 10 posts on your story. So be selective. I wouldn't put all 10 in your feed, because it just starts to get what people perceive as annoying, because it gums it up. If they know what to expect when they're in a Facebook story, they're looking for more quick runs, where in your feed it should be a little bit broader, concrete information.
So if you're posting something once a day, is that okay?
Absolutely.
To the feed, or is that like not 10 a day, but just 1? And also, like seasonally, we also have some summer crops like tomatoes, and I've posted several pictures of tomatoes like every time I harvest, once or twice a week, and they're just really beautiful.
I think that's great.
And a lot of times we do sell out of all of them, but I'm like, hey, they're just so beautiful. Like I don't want to miss this content, or peppers or something, is that too much? Is it repetitive? Like, oh, we harvested, 200 pounds today. Well, and now we just harvested 80 pounds and we're already sold out, but they're so beautiful, like this kind of stuff. Is that okay?
Absolutely. It is totally fine. And it just, some of it, like if you're a restaurant, I mean, I know none of you are restaurants, but if you serve lunch, happy hour, and dinner, it's reasonable to have 3 posts in a day. One that says come in for lunch, one that says it's happy hour time, and one that says, we deliver for dinner. So it just use your common sense as far as that goes. But it is, when I say spam feed, I just mean don't put 10 things that should be in a story and put them in your feed instead. And it's a great place where if you say, hey, get down here soon, we're about to sell out of our awesome peppers, that's a great thing for a story. It's sort of like the here and now. So then we talked a little bit about Facebook Live and Facebook videos. So video is king. People respond to video more than anything. The thing you want to make sure is that it's not too long, because they do lose interest as well. If you're, once in a while you can get someone to stick around for 2 minutes, but I say nothing over a minute, really. For a Facebook Live, if you click on that, the thing that's fun about that is you can promote, hey, I'm going to go live at the market at 2:00 or whatever time would be 10 o'clock in the morning, be looking for us. So you can promote a Facebook Live that, hey, I'm going to be live, and then people can chime in. And it might be a fun time for you to build partnerships with some of your other vendors that are your friends or complementing. So there's a spice person on this call, there's a tomato person on this call, and there's a microgreen person on this call. So maybe you, if you're all, I don't think you're at the same markets, but let's say you were, and you could say, hey, you could even almost walk the market a little bit, or take somebody else's and say, hey, if you use this spice with our tomatoes and then put these microgreens, you've got a full, salad. Or a cheese vendor. So Facebook Live is an opportunity to also partner up with other people and offer a, sort of like some co-branding, and some people like that. So that way, when I go to the market, I know I can go to this place, go home and eat a thing. So I like Facebook Live. And then it gives you, if you promote that you're going to do it, people can interact with you. That's what this is right here. They can interact with you live. But then once you're done, once you hit done on your Facebook Live, it saves in your feed as a video. So let's say I missed your 10 a.m., but I saw your feed at noon. I would be able to watch that video because it saves it in the feed. So I think these are great, fun to work with and to play with. And if for some reason the video turns out terrible and you're like, I don't really want that permanently in my feed, you can always, so this is your feed. So let's pretend that this sushi was a video and you're like, I'm not sure I want that to live there forever. You can go right up here. You can always just delete post. So if the Facebook Live, don't hesitate to use Facebook Live just because you're afraid it might not turn out great. If for some reason it's not something you want to live forever, you just delete it, and that makes it easy. So I put this in here because this is I use this PowerPoint for other people as well. There is a new thing that came in play in May. I really, honestly, am not an expert in it at all, because it has literally come about in May. That Facebook is working on having their own shopping platform. Right now, most people are using external platforms that interface, like we were talking about earlier. I think it was Priscilla. I can't remember if it's Katie or Priscilla. So just, I want you to be aware that Facebook has this option to have all of your products online, to sell online. I gave you the link. This is sort of how to set it up. By no means I'm an expert, and I'm not sure it's really super relevant for you all right now, but I just wanted you to know that that does exist, and it's just come online, and I don't know really anyone who's using it yet, because again, it's very, very new. But like I think they're trying to compete with Shopify and some of those that automatically feed in. So for instance, here, this is exactly what yours would look like, is when you have an interface with this other company, there'll be a little thing over here where people will click, and that's where they'll see, be able to place their orders. So are there any questions about Facebook Live or Facebook videos? Okay.
No, I'm fine.
Good. This is one that's very specific to Facebook, so I do want to talk about this. So, and I think I'm doing okay on time. I'm going to speak a little bit faster. Complementing actions. So as you know, you can post on here an event. So you can go to, well, this is showing you you can post, whether it's, let me go to another one. So Kieran Gellies, I know they have some events. So this is a restaurant that uses events well. So you should be posting that you are at, so this right here is their events page. So as you can see, they post every single day an event that says happy hour 3 to 6. They have certain nights of the week that they have, and they post every, every Tuesday is vegetarian night, so they use events. I highly recommend that you do the same. I would like it. And the reason for this is when you're searching in Facebook, if I say events near me, and people do this is a very common thing. So let's say I want events near me today. This will tell me everything. So see how Garanghelli shows up because I live near there. And this says the farmer's market's going to be on Tuesday. And so if lots of people do this, they go and they're looking, this will give you an opportunity to show up in this search. The only way you're going to show up in this search is if you use the actual event option. So you should make sure on your business page, you create an event for every single farmer's market where you are. So if anyone is in your region and is like looking for something to do, you will pop up in this feed. It will say, and you should say, who you are, your company name at such and such farmer's market. This is a free opportunity to get in front of people that don't already like your page. So this is not tied to people who like my page. This is tied to any human being who is in a geographic area near where you're located. Does that make sense? This is a really important one.
Can you talk about a little bit what the content should say? You're creating an event for farmers market and you're saying, I am this vendor, look for me or something, or like, I have
Right.
never used it.
So I would say your company name is at, you can have some fun with it too. You could say seasonal tomatoes available at such and such farmer's market. That's in, so I'm going to pull up this actual event. So you have a title here. You have the opportunity to put a photograph here. And then here, right, it'll say details. And you can just put whatever you want. So that you can say, I am at the farmer's market this week. So your title might be you at such and such farmer's market. Then here in the details, you could say available this week, Best Boy tomatoes and beefsteak tomatoes and such peppers and such microgreens, and then maybe even in here you could say great recipe idea for the tomatoes I'll have you could even put a something in here that talks about a recipe. So you want to put what time, and when you set up an event, it will prompt you. It only gives you, it'll say here, what's the title, what's the date, and it'll say details, and it asks for a category. So you'll say food, so that if somebody searched food near me, then you would pop up in the food category. So does that help about what to put in there? I would be specific. If if you're getting towards the end of a season, you might say, hey, we're getting towards the end of the season. Don't miss out on tomatoes. I'm picking on tomatoes today. Sorry. I must be wanting tomatoes. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah. What if I have two markets going on around the same time and create a separate event for both? I have Grand Lake, I have a Berkeley farmers market that I do personally. Somebody else does the other one. They're 1 hour about off.
Absolutely.
Do I create one event for one?
Different event for each one. It's totally fine. The more events, the better, because it's more opportunities to get in front of people. So and it asks for the location. So it'll say location. You could put Berkeley's farmers market or Berkeley. You can put a geographic location. So the reason that when I say events near me and Garanghelli's pops up is because I'm in Novato and it's near me. But if I physically did that same search and I was over in Berkeley things would pop up. So the event is geographic specific. So it doesn't matter even if they're running at the exact same time. You want multiple events. Every event should be a different event because it's based on geography. So definitely put your multiple markets up there for sure. So super, super important. Very, very cost effective because it's free, and it's an opportunity to get in front of eyeballs that are not, that don't. And then once you go to an event, I can say, oh, specialty, I'm picking on a specialty burger night, and I could say, oh, I don't know this company, or I don't know this restaurant. Then this gives me an opportunity that they might go to your page. So it's a great way to drive people to your page as well. So I'm hoping that makes sense. Then this other, what I call complementing actions, is you should be inviting all interactions to like your page. When I say interaction, I mean anyone that has liked a post or commented on a post. That's what an interaction is. So here, if you go to, I'm going to go back to downtown. Let's see. And unfortunately, I've probably liked all these. So you get a notification up here. So these are notifications of all of the things that you get. So if you get a notification, so here, and this should be when you're bored or when you're sitting waiting for someone, you should be going, so this is a post, right down here, it will tell you, so 6 people have liked, or a bunch of people have liked or loved this. If I click on this, it will pull up everyone who has liked it. Now, these are all grayed out, but you'll see how this person I know already likes my page. These people have been invited. Let's pretend, so I know that Mary Santora does not already like this page, but I've gone and invited her. I did this already, sorry. I can try to find it. If I hadn't already done this, this would be blue and it would say invite. So anyone who interacts with something on your page, so let's say they found you on an event, went to your page, saw a picture of the tomatoes and liked the picture. They don't like your page. So this will give you an opportunity to invite them to like your page. You should be doing this on every single post. Okay, so let's see if I can find one where I haven't already. See, all these people are invited. I'm sorry. So you should go through every single post, go to the little icon with the thumbs up or the heart or whatever, and you'll click on it and make sure that they have already been invited. So that's what I mean when I say this, invite all interactions to like your page. So people have an opportunity to interact with a post, but not necessarily like your page. It's to your advantage to get them to the next stage of liking your page, because then you will automatically show up in their feed. So does this make sense? And does everybody understand where they do that? You literally just go to any post and you click on the little thumbs up icon or the little heart, depending on what their interaction was. So this is a really, and when you saw that it says follow, the reason that it says follow is because it's usually a business page. So you can, this means, do you want to follow them? So I don't usually do that. All right, so does everybody understand that part? These are really, really important tips. I think you'll actually find those useful, and you'll grow your following pretty quick using both of those. So I want to talk really quickly about Facebook ads. Ads are designed to help you achieve, obviously, your broad campaign goals. Has anybody done a Facebook ad or boosted a page? I'm going to take the silence as a no. So there's 2 things you can do. You can build ads or you can boost a post. So I do a 2-hour class on ads, so I'm not going to go through all of the details of an ad. I would say for your purposes, I'm going to encourage you to boost, but I'll talk to you about that in a sec, like what that looks like. So Facebook ads give you, if you go in and build a Facebook ad, it walks you through the process. They make it very easy for you. So let's say you had let's say you had a famous chef that was going to come prepare food in your booth at a farmer's market on a certain day. And you wanted to make sure a lot of people knew because you're investing in having this chef come. That might be a time you would do an ad. You could do, and they're very cost effective. So you can do campaigns that are awareness. This is just literally to just get your brand out there. This can be how to drive, you can get people to drive to a website, and then also how to convert to sales. So you can push them towards a specific sale. So, and then boosts are the same. So like here, if you have a post, every single time you do a post, you have the opportunity to boost a post. So let's say you clicked on that. This is what it would pull up. And really what you do with this is you select your audience. So here you're through targeting. So it automatically reads the last audience that I chose, and I can edit that audience every single time. So I could say all people, I can change the age, demographic. And what you always want to be doing when you're picking and this is, I've chosen people who live within 25 miles of Novato. That's a pretty broad thing. So let's say you were at the Marin Farmers Market, you would put San Rafael. So San Rafael, California, and 25 miles is pretty big. So maybe I just go down and I say people that might be 10 miles. And then you hit save audience. So you can choose your audience for your boost, and then you pick your duration. How many days do you want it to run? And then this is your budget per day. So I'm telling you, you can do $3 a day, and you can do and it will tell you if it's too low. See how it says, well, it's a pretty small budget. You're probably not going to reach your goals. So you can say, okay, $4 a day for so many days. And then your payment stuff will be in there. And then you just hit boost. And so that, do you want to leave? Yes, I want to leave. So that's how boosting is super easy. So that would be, let's say you're at the market, you've already done your post, but it's kind of a slow day. You're not really sure. You could do a quick boost, or if you say, oh gosh, I have so much product I need to get rid of, boost a post 3 days in advance. And just to get, and what that does is it gets in front of every single person in the audience that you've selected. And obviously the more money you spend, the more times that will show up in their feed. So, and this is just a quick page to say you want to make sure your overall goals are in line with your ad goals. I think that's self-explanatory, especially since you guys have such a narrow focus. Just be mindful of what it is. Are you trying to drive people to your website? You're probably trying to get people to your actual market. So are you trying to sell a product or a service? That's more you guys. Are you trying to generate leads? So just be aware that, make sure that your ads are focused on some specific marketing goal that you have in place. And I think driving people to your markets are key. But once you get your pre-order version, when you get your sales thing that you were talking about at the beginning, this would be a great way. Maybe you run an ad that says, or you do a post that says, you can now order in advance, and then you might boost that post. That's a really great idea to boost, because then that lets lots of people know that they can pre-order. And so that's going to drive people to your particular booth just because they have this added bonus or benefit. So when I talk about advertising tips, you just want to always make sure that you know what you're trying to achieve. This is, again, sort of self-explanatory. Make sure your business objectives, like, are you trying to get people to show up? That just what we just talked about. Knowing your target audience, make sure your message goes to the right people. So right now you've got COVID and you've got terrible air quality. I have a sneaking suspicion the older population is not out and about quite so much. So maybe you would not have your audience span all the way to that age group. You might keep it a little lower, just knowing that, do you really want to waste advertising on someone who perhaps is likely to not be going out and about right now? Those are things to consider when you're doing your target audience. And then always, as always, let your organic posts inform your ads. Just make sure that your ads look and feel similar to your regular posts. Here, make sure you're paying for what matters. The thing that I always say on this, and I'm not going to go through all of the language, you can read this after the fact, but as you're going through, Facebook will give you options to, it takes you through the sort of wizard as you're setting it up. I always say, please trust Facebook. Facebook reads your algorithms. So it knows what your audience does and what their behaviors are. So I just say, if they make a suggestion, like do a cost per click or whatever their suggestion is, take their suggestion and don't try to get creative. I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never outsmarted Facebook with changing it up. I always say, please design with mobile in mind. So when you're building an ad, there's a little thing that'll say, look at it on desktop, look at it in mobile. You should always look at the mobile section, because most people are looking at things on their phones. So you want to make sure that it looks good in the mobile format. Sometimes that means using fewer words because they have fewer, it goes to read more quicker. So just to make sure you're looking at what it would look like on mobile. And then you can always test for optimum performance. What this means is try running a short boost with a picture of just tomatoes, and then run that same, do a post with you and your, maybe you harvesting on the farm, and see which one, using the same text, see which one performs better. And then well, my audience seems to like the gardening side or the agriculture side, or test ones with people's faces in it. Maybe they like faces more than they like to see the fruit or vegetables. So you can always test and see. And we're gonna go over to analytics really quick here in a second, or metrics, so I can explain to you how you do that. So over here, first of all, I just flew through that. Does anybody have questions so far? I'm going to get into how to look at insights on your posts. Does anybody have questions before I do that? Okay, so insights are not just metrics about your ads. Insights are about your posts as well. So all of you, I like to end on this because if you remember two things, I want this to be one of the two. You should be looking at your insights, and Facebook makes it so easy for you to know, because I am constantly shocked at how things that I think are going to be brilliant posts don't get response, and things that I'm like, I wonder why. So when in your page, in the old classic version, insights is up here, but in the new version, it's over here. So you just hit insights, and it will pull up this page. This is telling me everything. This is an overview, but the things that I want to show you, so you can go here, you can click on followers. This tells me everything about the behavior of the people who follow me, or I don't care about followers. Let's go to likes. These are all the behaviors of the people who like the page. So you can get some information. This talks about, well, for some reason, I had some people unlike us that day. I could go look and wonder what the post was that turned them off. I usually don't worry about one person unliking a page. Sometimes that means they moved. So this talks about your likes. The thing I really want you to focus, there's so much you can bore down and you can have fun with this, but I want you to look at posts. If you click on posts, actually two things. Why is it not doing it? There we go. I want to look at people too. Let's go to people. So this will tell you who your fans are, who your followers are, who you've reached, and who has engaged. So this is important information. So these fans are people who like my page. So obviously this is a shopping district, so it's not surprising it's 75% women, although you will probably laugh and find that 75% are, this is a very common thing on Facebook. But what you are going to find is, this always surprises me, is age. You might be surprised. So when you're talking about know your demographic, this is a surefire way to know actually who your demographic is, not who you think it is, because who walks up to you at the farmer's market might be different than who is looking at you on Facebook. So it's important to click on the people section, take a peek so you can see. This also tells you who is looking at your Facebook page. So if you're running an ad, you know, I picked within 10 miles of San Rafael. Well, this tells you who's actually, you know, where people are that are looking at your page. That's so useful. And then you can talk about who's reach. Their reach is a broader category. I'm far more interested in who has engaged. So engagement is, these are people who have liked a post, commented on a post, and so forth. So you'll see that this skews slightly different. So my fans over here are 35 to 44-year-olds. So that's the most, those are the people who like my page. But the people who actually interact with it more are older. It's not, so it's interesting. So yeah, lots of younger people like my page, but my most important demographic is 45 to 54. They're the ones that are actually engaging with it, which I think is always interesting. So make sure you're popping at those two. The main thing is who likes your page and who's engaging. And then when we go over here to posts, this is another important one I want you to look at. So what this tells me is what time of day. So obviously this is a shopping district, it's not surprising. So my guess is maybe earlier in the morning, you're gonna have more spikes because people are getting ready to go to the farmer's market and they're looking to see. So this tells you what time of day are the peak performances. So what you could do is, this helps inform what time of day you post. If you have that luxury to know, you could say, the most people are on at 8 p.m. So maybe I'll do my posts at 8 p.m. because then it'll show up in their feed when I know they're there looking at it. And then down here, this is every single post that I've ever done on this page. This is where you can start to say, do people like pictures of the vegetables? Do people like pictures of us at the market? Do people like the field photos? Because you can see here. So reach is, again, what I consider less important than engagement. So what this says to me is a lot of people seem to, and then, so you can see here, post clicks, the light purple is who clicked on it, and then the darker purple or the pinkish purple is they've reacted. This is, they've either liked it or commented on it. So as you can see, a lot of people clicked on this post, but not that many people interacted with it. This one, a lot of people interacted. So I say, what was that post? Well, this was the post about that beautiful plate of sushi. So clearly people thought that they responded well to that post. Here, this was a very low response. This was just a picture of some clothing. Probably not that exciting of a photograph. Then you go down here and lots of people responded to this. Well, I used lots of emojis in the language. Maybe they responded well to that. So you can start to see patterns. I think this one was so funny. This was a post literally of a to-go bag talking about a cheesesteak. People seem to like it. Down here, this got great response. So then you start to look at your different posts. This is the most important thing for you to look at. So you can start gearing your posts to what is your audience is responding to. And I can tell you right now, when you have people in a photo, it always does well. This one here, lots of these, this is a shopping district, so it's more about product and less about people. But this one that did so well, this is a thing about a person. So people do respond to just as a side note, animals and people, they like to see. So does anybody have questions? I know I moved really fast through metrics, but if you just go into your insights and you just make your way through here, this will, you can sort of see all of the different things and how it's very self-explanatory and easy to follow. But I do want to make sure you're always looking at your metrics. So does anybody have questions about the insights and how to read insights and perhaps why?
No.
You all good? Good.
Yep.
All right. Brilliant. So that really, I think that's sort of, yeah, that's now we're at the overall questions. Thank you, all of that fun stuff. So we have at least 5 minutes, and I don't mind going over a little bit. So does anybody have questions that I did not address? And it can be a totally different topic. Tell me what you think.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
No, I just wondered if anybody has questions. Like, it can be something I didn't cover, something you need me to cover. I know you had a question, Elliot, about why things are not showing up in your notifications. And that's a trickier one without me actually boring down and looking at what the situation is. But if you, right up here, this little bell is your notifications. You should click on that. That will tell you, and I have so many Facebook pages that I monitor, so I have a million notifications. But here, this notification section right here will show you everyone that's interacted. So you should be able to see all your comments and notifications by clicking on the little bell at the top.
Yeah, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But what I do wonder is if it was when the page was originally set up, if it was set up properly. That's one thing I wonder, and it is so difficult to find somebody who knows the Facebook business page. A lot of, nieces and nephews, they know the personal, but they don't really know the business. And I tried to get help through SBDC, but it didn't work out too well.
Well, I'm not sure was it recently that you tried to get help through SBDC?
Yeah, and the guy, I don't think that's his specialty. His name is David.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can see it. So I can see your puppy. So right now, I am an advisor for the SBDC. So that's sort of my expertise. So why don't you try going back to the SBDC and ask them for a one-on-one with me, and we can talk through your specific needs.
Okay, I
just
will.
Ask for me specifically, and they'll get you an appointment with me directly.
Okay. Now, does it matter that I belong or I'm a member of the Alameda County? Does that matter?
You know what? Just reach out to the Marin SB. I'm going to put this in the chat. It's Marin SBDC .org. I couldn't remember. Not awful.
Yeah.
So just reach out to them specifically, and they may make an exception to let you meet with me.
Okay.
Yeah, Elliot, they will, because we are working very closely with the Marin SBDC under this FMPP grant. And so there is some funding from Marin to work with some producers, even if you're in another county.
Okay. I had started off, I think I was talking to a lady, I hope I get her name, Marin, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when she asked me to sign up to the SBDC, I told her I was a member of Alameda County, and she said, "Oh, great, that makes it even easier." Mm-hmm. And she was like, "I'm going to forward your information." And when she forwarded, I guess they put me in touch with David, and David, I don't think this is what he really does. I think he's more of a marketing expert, and he gave me tons of wonderful information, but it didn't help with the Facebook. And no offense to him, but his recommendation was just to use a third party so they could post on my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and that wasn't what I was looking for, but I did appreciate him providing me the option.
Yeah, I would reach out to Miriam again and explain that you're working with AIM and that you're working with Liana. And so she probably just didn't realize that you fall into the category of this class.
Okay.
Is that right, Liana?
I think the first choice is to have folks who are working in another county and already connected to an SBDC office work with those folks, but it's fine in this case. Miriam and I have discussed this, so it's okay to reach out again to Marin, and I'll alert Miriam so she knows that you're going to be reaching out, Elliot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank
there's
you.
definitely a shortage of the social media experts across, because lots of counties have been trying to get me to teach. I just don't have time to do every county, but I do know it's been a bit of a challenge to find people. So I'm not surprised.
Okay. You froze. Did we lose you? Oh, there you go.
Oh gosh, don't you dare do that. I have a brand new computer. If it freezes, I would laugh. All right. So that sort of, I think that I can go back to our share screen. That sort of brings us to the end of our both time. I was right on track. So if you do have follow-up questions, here's a screen with our email addresses and so forth. Actually, this has Miriam's email, direct email, if you want to reach out to her, Elliot. And if you have questions as you're looking at the PowerPoint, feel free to reach out to me. I can clarify something if you have questions. I know I have to run through it really quick with just an hour and a half, and I try to cover a lot of ground.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie, so much for all of this great information and for partnering with us and with AIM to deliver this information. I hope it's been helpful for everyone.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for everybody's patience with my crash and burn last time. I appreciate you guys being willing to reschedule. So I think that's it. I'll let you take it from here, Leanna.
Sure. Well, if no one has any other questions, I think that's it for today. We will be sending out more emails about upcoming webinars, but in the meantime, if there are any subjects that you personally are interested in, feel free to email me directly, or like Stephanie said, if you want some follow-up, contact information is here on the screen. So we'll leave that up for a minute. Otherwise, we hope to see you soon at the market. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.